Today, as All Saints Sunday, we offer the necrology at the services, and there are a lot more names this year than in the previous years, so people, you'll see them coming in over the next 5, or if they're big talkers, next 10 minutes coming into class. An announcement this Saturday upcoming is a Calvary Bazaar, and if you've been here once, you know this room is completely full of attic treasures, so there can be no class next week. We will resume the following week. Also, Deanna Briotti, who's our preacher today, is our church planner who's just about to begin the new Church of the Incarnation in Beaver County. God willing, we finally found a building to share after 20 or so attempts that resulted in failure. This one looks like it's going to land, and Deanna's starting worship in public, as in church services on Sunday November 30th. So very, very soon. On the 23rd, a few weeks from now, we will thank her at the 8 and 9 and an 11 o'clock service, thank her and then dedicate or consecrate her, send her out. By the way, the word apostle means one who's sent. So this would be an apostolic type ministry to send her out from Calvary. Anybody remember how long she's been here? 4 years. She was our McNulty intern for 2 and been our curator assistant priest for the last 2. She's preached, she's done a lot of things that you don't see, kind of learning how it all works behind the scenes. It's all just wonderful, like any committee meeting or how sausage is made, like anywhere else. It's all fine. But she's learned that and now going out to begin her new, or I should say it's our new congregation. It's part of the Diocese of Pittsburgh. So please keep praying for her. And Michael is not here. Michael West, who always asks great questions, asked about battery recycling. So I found a place, the Frick does that. Anybody remember what wonderful plague we talked about last time? Well, they're all terrible. One thing I did not realize, the third plague is sometimes, or fourth plague is sometimes called gnats. That's what I refer to it as. But I learned the Hebrew word translated in the King James Version, so the English one from 1611, is also translated as lice. It was a plague of lice. And that sounds slightly worse to me than a gnat plague. Both are atrocious, awful. And then another translation of the little, of the Hebrew word, it could be mosquito. And like, I've lived in New Orleans, and mosquitoes go everywhere in your face, but I think lice is probably the grossest to me. And they're saying it could stem from the frog plague just before that. I don't want to get too gross if you're going to go have lunch later, but all these are meant to be personal as well as societal or communal. And again, it's a Yahweh, the God of the Hebrew people, no matter where they go, is on enemy territory in Egypt. I did some more research and talked to Aaron. Each of the plagues could also be tied, and it has been in Judaism as interpreted through the years, particularly Midrash, or as Aaron calls it, fan fiction, what people imagine to fill in the gaps. And that is that each plague is tied to a different Egyptian god. And so this is when it's darkness, Ra, the Egyptian god of sun, is defeated, and the god of the Nile River, their source of life, is defeated. And at the end, with the killing of the firstborn, this is all of the power of Egypt, who, remember, that's how Moses came onto the scene, because all the firstborn Hebrew boys would be killed because Pharaoh ordered it. So now, at the very end, God kills the firstborn of the Egyptians. It's this coming full circle. But before we go any further, I want to recall for you probably a very bad memory, or at least it was for me, to get a sense of something that's very easy to miss. And that is, think back to the very beginning of the pandemic. For us, it was March 15th, 2020. I remember a zillion Facebook posts, "We can do this," social distance, which was a new term, wear a mask, that we're working for a vaccine, we're all in it together. And for a few months, it was okay. And then that summer, everything seemed to go crazy with George Floyd. And then things started to unravel. And what was I certainly wouldn't say cohesive society, but people could talk to one another a little easier and remembered how to do it. It seems like people forgot how to talk to one another after that. And think through about 2 or 3 years in the midst of it, when we have a vaccine, but there's still things keep happening, and there was this sense of not hopelessness, but we're kind of stuck. It was lethargic. And now that we're 5-ish years beyond the beginning day, it seems like we're not like we were before. And I don't know if I wouldn't say better, but it certainly marked people. So when we're talking about Moses and Aaron come to give a word of hope to the Hebrew people, the Israelites, think of that experience when you're 2 or 3 years in the pandemic. It was a pretty dark time, but only that was a few years. And you could still, order stuff from Amazon. You could still, if you wrapped yourself in bubble wrap, you could go see other people. I mean, you could interact. But imagine the Hebrew people when Moses and Aaron come to say, "I have a vision from God. He spoke to me in a burning bush." And everybody says, "Sure, right, whatever, you weird half-Egyptian, half-Hebrew guy that we don't trust, who can't talk well, so you got your brother, your big brother to come talk for you." Everybody knows that's lame. And how long had the Hebrews been slaves to the Egyptians? A couple years? 400 years. 400 years. So 20 approximately generations, all they had ever known is slavery. And what happens to a person, what happens to a whole people if all they've ever known is slavery? Do you have a sense of authority? Only what he tells you to do. Do you have a sense of agency, as we would say? You're able to make your own decisions and think a long term in the future? Of course not. And so, in a sense, Moses and Aaron bringing God's word of hope, God will deliver you from slavery in Egypt. I don't even know what that means. We can't think that way because this is all we've ever known. But this is a traditional Reform Judaism interpretation of this. And so later, when you've got the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years looking for the promised land, we've said this many times, that desert is not that big. You can get there 700 miles. That's not a 40-year journey. Why does it take so long? Everybody that grew up as slaves has to die. Everybody that makes it into the promised land has known freedom. They are a free people from birth. And that's a massive transition to undertake. So all of this, Moses and Aaron and these plagues, is in that context. And if I came to you saying, this new God is going to come in and the Steelers are going to go undefeated the rest of the year. Sure. What evidence? We still have Mike Tomlin, right? We still have the same people that seem to underperform on defense, and I won't go too much into this. But what new players are we going to suddenly get? How is it going to be different? Well, they have to be shown through proof over time. Well, we won this one and this one and this one, and then all of them, and then you might start to want to believe, but you don't want your feelings hurt because they lose the playoffs or whatever. It takes you hear the words of hope from Moses and Aaron, and the people don't really believe it because you don't want to have your heart broken. You don't want to have your hope dashed, do you? What evidence do we have? So in effect, this is again traditional Reform Jewish interpretation, there are all these steps of evidence, or these proofs. This miracles, signs is the traditional word, mighty acts is another one, of here is what God is doing to show the people. And, analogous to that, here is what God is doing to show the Egyptians, Pharaoh specifically, you're not in charge, God is. One after the other. So you've got these two things, proving to the people, look, I love you, look, I will follow up on my promises, I'm good to my word, and Egyptians, look out, because justice, God's style, is being served. All these things are happening. And that's easy to miss that if we're talking about infestations of lice. Why? Each of the gods of Egypt is being overthrown. Remember the sorcerers trying to match Moses trick for trick? They get the first few, and then what happens? They kind of disappear and go away, and you don't want to show that, oh, I can't match him, so we'll just fade into the background. Pretty soon they can't do it because they're going to get the boils. If you thought lice all over your body wasn't bad enough, how about boils all over? Like, oh my God, remember, it doesn't just affect Pharaoh, it's affecting the average man and woman who complain. It later will affect, with locusts, their livelihood, their whole economy, on which the whole system of slavery is based. Refresher, why are all the Egyptians slaves? Why are all the Hebrews slaves? Most of the Egyptians. There was a famine. They ran out of food. Joseph, the Hebrew guy, interpreted dreams for Pharaoh. Oh, you're pretty smart. You're my second in charge. Well, we'll charge exorbitant prices when everybody runs out of food because we kept all the grain. And then you got to pay more and more. And then they sold their animals, and then they had to sell themselves. So everybody goes into slavery. And if you have no more food in which to feed even the slaves, suddenly that whole system gets challenged. So that's also what's happening here. The sixth plague is where we stopped. Then the Lord, Yahweh, said to Moses and Aaron, take handfuls of soot from the kiln and let Moses throw it into the air in sight of Pharaoh. It shall become fine dust all over the land of Egypt, and shall cause festering boils on humans and animals throughout the whole land of Egypt. So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh. And Moses, could you imagine Pharaoh? What are those two idiots going to do now? How many times has Pharaoh said, you know what, I changed my mind, I'm going to let your people go? You remember? Every time. And then Pharaoh did what? Cross my fingers, I take it back. I'm not really going to let you go. Instead, no, I'm going to punish you more, or you're going to stay there. So it happens yet again. And it caused festering. If you thought regular boils were bad, these are festering boils, which are much worse. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils. For the boils afflicted the magicians as well as all the Egyptians. So if you guys think you can do my throw the stick on the ground and make it a snake, okay, fine. But you are going to get boils and be in presumably pain and discomfort and all the rest. So they can't match it anymore. They have been afflicted with this sign that Yahweh is more powerful than they are. So they get scarred. It's like put a big red A right on their forehead. They can't do it. They're ostracized from the community. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. So who got boils? Did you catch that? Takes soot, throws it in the air. Egyptians, not Hebrews. Egyptians, presumably, because it says magicians specifically, but presumably even Pharaoh got boils. That's a problem. just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. So I told you I was going to do it, and I did it. Then, less gross plague, if you needed a break from that stuff. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Rise," and how long did the boils last? It hasn't said yet. "Rise up early in the morning and present yourself before Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, the God of Hebrews.'" Catch that? God of Hebrews. "Let my people go so they may worship me." He didn't say that in the last one. It kind of alternates. Why? What's this, let my people go to worship? Let them go out in the wilderness, out in the desert, and then they can worship me, make sacrifices. That's the line that Moses and Aaron give to Pharaoh, and he's afraid the people are going to run away, which is a pretty reasonable assumption on his part. No, you can't leave. Let my people go so they may worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon you yourself, Pharaoh, and upon your officials and upon your people, so that you may know there was no one like me in all the earth. That's not an idle threat at this point. I mean, he's got some credibility there. "But this is why I have let you live, to show you my power." I love those stories where the bad guys come in and kill everybody but one guy so he can go report. I am letting you live so that you can tell everybody that I'm God and you're not, and this is what's happening. It's very dramatic. I always think of these as Westerns, all of Genesis, all of Exodus. Clint Eastwood, he's too cool to play Moses would be a less cool version of Clint Eastwood. "But this is why I've let you live, to show you my power, to make my name resound through all the earth. You are still exalting yourself, Pharaoh, against my people, and will not let them go. Tomorrow at this time I will cause the heaviest hail to fall that has ever fallen in Egypt, from the day it was founded until now." So the worst on record, everybody's known hailstorm. He gives them a warning. They don't get warnings before. You can do something about this plague to avoid it. "Send therefore, and have your livestock and everything that you have in the open field brought to a secure place. Every human or animal that is in the open field and is not brought under shelter will die when the hail comes upon them." Those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried their slaves and livestock off to a secure place. Some of them are breaking ranks. Some of the Egyptians now are starting to believe. So they hide their stuff. They hedge their bets. Those who did not regard the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the open field. I can just imagine you got all these officials, mid-tier guys, men and women, whatever, talking, and Pharaoh looks like, "You're not going to hide your stuff, are you?" No, I was going to leave them out in the open fields because I trust you, Pharaoh, not some lame Israelite God. And they're caught in this dilemma of, do I trust Pharaoh and everything I've ever known that's powerful, or do we trust this foreign God on our territory? It's a fascinating of other people, not non-Hebrews that is, believing in God for the first time. Not I'd call it invitational form of evangelism. Come and see how great it is, Jesus say. We're going to kill all you and your livestock if you don't convert. That's a heavy proselytizing form. So, where did I say? Those who did not regard the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the open field. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand towards heaven, so hail may fall on the whole land of Egypt, on humans and animals, and all the plants in the field." Then Moses stretched out his staff towards heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail. Do those go together? They could, not really. Other translations say hail and fire. That's different than thunder and hail. Thunder is a scary sound. Fire is a whole other thing. The traditional Jewish interpretation is you have two different parts of the natural world, of the creation. You're not supposed to get fire and ice together, and both are in this destructive act. God is Lord, Yahweh is Lord over everything, and all the forces of the cosmic world function under God's command. And they're all after Egypt. Oh my God, it's terrible hail. Oh wow, followed by wildfires falling from the sky on top of us. What's worse than a hailstorm? Fire falling after the hail hits you. Moses stretched out his hand, the Lord rained hail in the land of Egypt. There was hail with fire flashing continually in the midst of it. Such heavy hail as had never fallen in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. The hail struck down everything that was in the open field throughout all the land of Egypt, both human and animal. The hail also struck down all the plants of the field, shattered every tree in the field. Only in the land of Goshen was there no hail. Who was in the land of Goshen? The Israelites. So, big point, miracle. This little oasis is sheltered. It's not literally an oasis, but it's a fertile land northeast of part of Egypt where the Israelites live. That is untouched it's untouched by all the plagues. It's safe. God's favor rests on them, but there's nowhere to hide Egyptians. The Pharaoh, after everything's smashed, the Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said to them, "Oh, now you'd have to be the greatest actor of his generation to try to tell Moses and Aaron what Pharaoh's going to tell him." Is that Jimmy Swaggart that sinned? He had that, I've sinned. I have sinned. The Lord is right. I and my people are wrong. Pray to the Lord. Enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You need to stay no longer. He's peeking to see if Moses believes him. Moses said to him, "As soon as I've gone out of the city, I will stretch out my hands. The thunder will cease. There'll be no more hail, so that you may know the earth is the Lord's. But as for you and your officials, I know that you do not yet fear the Lord. I know, Pharaoh, you are a big fat liar, and you're not convincing anyone." Interesting little parentheses. Now the flax and barley were ruined, the food, for the barley was in the ear and the flax was in bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not ruined, for they are late in coming up. There is still food that hasn't been destroyed to feed the Egyptians because God, I guess, made that provision there. So Moses left Pharaoh, went out of the city, stretched out his hand to the Lord. Then the thunder and hail ceased. The rain no longer poured. So you got fire and rain at the same time. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and the thunder had ceased, he sinned once more and hardened his heart, he and his officials. So the heart of the Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. Now you can see the pattern every single time. Oh, right, my fault, my bad, Yahweh's great, I should let you go. As soon as the pain, the suffering stops, nope, change my mind, back again. Why do you need 10? That's just what the story says. You kind of get the point after 3 or 4 frogs and gnats and so on. Then hits locust. Have you ever been where locust, when they come up, what happens? They devour everything. I've seen it one time, and it feels, people use words like biblical or apocalyptic, and they eat everything that is there to be eaten. And if you've seen millions upon millions of carcasses of locusts, that's also scary because they're just these hollow husk. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his officials." Remember the phrase in Hebrew is, "I've made their hearts like lead, that I may show these signs of mine among them." So Pharaoh hardens his heart. I will keep demonstrating who I am as Yahweh, that you may tell your children and grandchildren. Were you there? Do you remember when that happened? And you, now the gray-haired wise foxes, tell the young people the way it was back in the day. Were you there when this happened? Tell your children and grandchildren I have made fools of the Egyptians. How ridiculous is it, this no tiny people and the greatest empire on earth in that area has made fools of them. Imagine making fools of the United States if you're one tribe in the middle of the Amazon. It just doesn't happen. That's the story. What signs I have done among them, so that you may know I am the Lord. That is the whole point to the whole thing. I am Yahweh, I am God. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. Guess how this one's going to turn out. Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so that they may worship me. For if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country. They knew what they were. They shall cover the surface of the land, so no one will be able to see the land. They shall devour the last remnant you have left after the hail. So whatever the hail didn't crush, they will eat it. And they shall devour every tree of yours that grows in the field. They shall fill your houses. I have lived also, as I mentioned, in New Orleans, and you don't understand termites, because termites up here are tiny things and they're in the ground and the frost kills them. There they fly, and you see wings from dead termites everywhere. And especially when it's hot, which is like 10 months a year, you leave the windows open and they get in your keyboard and they're underneath your keys, so you have to dump your keyboard out because there's so many of them and it's so gross. And they go around every light and every house is infested. It's a matter of how much and when. And they know, you also know, every time you see one, he's got 1 billion brothers and sisters, and they're all eating your stuff. And there's not really much, that's just the way it is. And they're there. And it's this very deep foreboding that they're going to eventually eat your house, and you've got there's these little green plastic stakes that have bait, and that kind of helps, but it's just this constant fighting off nature that you can't really do. I have this sense of Pharaoh thinks he's the greatest ever, but at some point it's this, every single plague weighs, and it's a cumulative effect. And the locust, imagine looking out at your awesome territory, and remember your wealth is built on what? Slavery, and you own everything, namely the grain and the stuff, and you better bet those locusts are getting there and eating all of that. And all the trees you may have had to build boats to go up and down the Nile, destroyed or eaten. And all the leaves and all the other food. So you are becoming much less powerful all the time and looking out and seeing, oh, wow, my 401k took a hit this month. Oh, no, everything is going down the tubes. And what can you do about it? The inevitable keeps creeping up on you. And just to make the point, like I was, tomorrow I'll bring locusts into your country, for they shall cover the surface of the land. You won't be able to see it. They shall devour the last remnant. They shall fill your houses. They shall fill the houses of all of your officials, all the Egyptians. You'll have locusts in your keyboards and in your hair and in your clothes and crawl around your sock drawer, something that neither your parents nor your grandparents have seen from the beginning of the earth to this day. So you thought you saw locusts before. This is the worst locust plague ever. Then dramatically, he turned and left Pharaoh. Drops the mic from the locust, takes off. Pharaoh's officials said to him, this is when your advisors or your assistant coaches have a quiet word with the boss. How long shall this fellow be a snare to us? Or like, hey, Pharaoh, you're so handsome and smart and mighty, but could we do something, maybe have some compromise? Why are these guys doing all this? Can we not do something? I mean, I know you don't want to give in, but we're losing all our stuff. All our people are mad. Your opinion polls are way down. You're underwater, and all the stuff people say. How long shall this fellow Moses be a snare, a trap? Let the people go. Just get rid of them so they may worship the Lord your God. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? They just told that to Pharaoh. Your country, you're king of, is ruined. So Moses and Aaron were brought back. Pharaoh must have taken their word of advice. Bring those two rascals back here. Pharaoh said to them, go worship the Lord your God. But which ones are to go? Moses said, we will go with our young and old, sons and daughters, flocks and herds. Everybody's going to the festival to celebrate. Notice this little, it's a negotiated argument that's happening. Pharaoh said to them, the Lord indeed will be with you if ever I let your little ones go with you. Plainly, Moses, you have some evil purpose in mind. No, never, says Moses. Pharaoh says, your men may go and worship the Lord, for that's what you're asking. That's all you really want. And they were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. That is, you can't take the women and children and none of your animals with you to go worship. Only the men can go. Why does Pharaoh allow that, but not everybody to go? They got to come back. They can't sneak away at night when they're off if all their families, all their food, all their money is left back in Egypt. It's a pretty clever thing to do. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt so the locusts may come upon it and eat every plant. Morning came, brought the locusts. The locusts came upon all the land of Egypt. You know what's happening. A dense swarm of locusts that had never been seen before nor ever shall be seen again. They covered the land so the land was black. They ate all the plants. All the fruit of the trees the hail had left. Nothing green was left. No trees, no plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurriedly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Do forgive my sin just this once. I swear, honey, it's the last time I'll do it. It's like, okay, sure. There was, I won't say his or her name, this bishop I worked for once who was asked to run for presiding bishop, and he did, and then he didn't get it, and then he decided he wanted to go to a bigger, richer diocese, so he put his name in and was in a finalist, and this sounds biblical because presiding bishop, he was a finalist in the final five, didn't get it, and 4 other times he tried to be bishop somewhere else and was in the final public list but didn't get it. And the first time was, this is what you're supposed to say, I need to be open to the Holy Spirit. Maybe I'm called to this. And then when he didn't get it, oh, honey, I'm sorry I've sinned. I really love you. That was just a mistake. It was one time. And the second time, maybe, oh, I have recommitted to you. And then the third and fourth and fifth time, and you're like, what? Just whatever, dude, go away. The same type of dynamic is happening here. No one believes that bishop or that unfaithful spouse or this, but that's the story. Pharaoh is saying, do forgive my sin just this once, because I haven't really sinned before, have I? Pray to the Lord your God that he at least remove this deadly thing from me, the locust. So he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. The Lord changed the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts, drove them into the Red Sea. Why is the Red Sea? What happens there later? It's what parted. That's where the Israelites, Hebrews, escape. It's also called the Sea of Reeds. So Red Sea, Sea of Reeds, the same place. It could be because there were, we call it seaweed, lots of reeds under the water there. So the locust left all in the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. 8th time, would not let the people go. We're going to finish the 9th plague. Then the Lord said to Moses, I'm just about had it with these recalcitrant kids acting up who don't believe me. Have you ever, as any parent, how many? If you have to tell somebody 8 times to clean your room or do something, does your tone change, Nick, at the 8th time? Little bit. Or I'm going to make mom is going to come in there, or dad is going to come in there. I am done negotiating. No more TV. Brush your teeth. Get in bed, or whatever it may be. So stretch out your hand towards heaven so there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be felt. Any of you ever been to deep caves? I don't mean turn it like darkness, not turning your lights off and you're out in the country. Mammoth Cave, which is very close to where I was born and grew up, is very, very deep. And there's this one they love to show everybody. Cavernous room, much bigger than this room, deep underground. They have everybody stand still, turn off their lights, and when your eyes adjust, I really can't see my hand at all right in front of me. It's eerie and unnatural feeling. You don't feel, even at dark, you can kind of sense where you're going. This is total blindness from everything. So you're cut off. And with darkness too, remember one of the primary gods of Egypt is Ra, the sun god. And Egypt is not up in the Arctic, it's the desert. It's the sun blasting them all the time. And so this sun in the desert is completely cut off. All Egyptian power is nil, in case you missed that point. A darkness so dark it can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand towards heaven, which does that make it happen? No, it's what God told him to do. It's not a magic spell. It's Yahweh acting, and this is receiving that. So there was a dense darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. When was it dark later with Jesus? Anybody remember? When he died? Similar idea. People could not see one another. And for 3 days, they could not move from where they were. Scary. How long is this going to last? But all the Israelites could see each other. They had light where they lived, in Goshen. Now, don't ask how this happens in the natural world, but this beam of light, like a dome over Goshen, where all the Israel, they're out there like, hey, look, we still got all our fruit trees. We got dates and figs, pomegranates. All y'all, it's dark. We still look at all our plants and trees because we follow Yahweh and you're mean people. People could not see one another. The Israelites had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses, a lamp presumably, and said, go worship the Lord. Only your flocks and your herds shall remain behind. Even your children can go with you. So he gave in a little bit. You can take your children, but you can't take all your stuff. But Moses said, and this is a clever retort, our livestock also must go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind. For we must choose some of them for worship the Lord. And we don't know which of the livestock God wants us to sacrifice until we get there. That is such a lame argument if you think about it. But, he could, to a degree, what I've learned, if you're in a position of authority and you just say it with conviction and authority, oh yeah, that's a pretty good argument. We don't know which of us is the right one, so we all got to go. We got to take all the stuff. Our livestock must go with us. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he was unwilling to let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, get away from me. And this is the threat that he's not had before. Take care that you do not see my face again, Pharaoh says to Moses, for on the day you see my face, you shall die. I am done messing with you stupid Hebrews and your God and all the rest. Next time I see you, you're dead. Again, that sounds like an awesome Western threat to me. Little John, if we come across you again, it's your last day. Moses said, just as you say, I will never see your face again. Then it's presumably light again at that point, when it should be dark. We have a couple minutes before we next time, Aaron will be here, we'll talk about the 10th plague, which is where we get the Passover feast from. What has any of this have you learned Does any of this apply to us today? This is part of the primary root experience that makes Jewish people Jewish. It's the core of their identity of deliverance from slavery. Is this how we would choose to write the story today? Probably not. Where is, now don't answer, Allison, because I know what you're going to say. Where's the God of love and mercy and other like grace? Is any of that in here yet? Maybe, not really. Remember, it's not necessarily that God changes, but our understanding of God definitely changes over time. And you'll see that in the stories of Genesis and certainly in Exodus. And they're different. If you've heard of P and J Priestley and Yahwehist schools, they're different elements within Judaism. For goodness sakes, just think of, if you say, what is Christianity to someone who has never heard of it before, how would you describe it? Or how would a Roman Catholic describe it? Or how would a priest or a layperson describe it? Or somebody who's only been in a Baptist church, or only Pentecostal, or only Greek Orthodox, or somebody who's not churched, but is a normal, secular person in this country. Different elements, you would describe different parts of that. So this is not the only understanding of God, but it is their primary one. And remember, they heard stories about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and back 400 years ago, those were our people and those were our God, but that's a long time to forget. And a long time that, where was God this whole time, by the way? The whole 400 years of slavery is that not around. Why should I start believing you now? Because of frogs and lice? That's not, I don't know if, well, we've got some communication people. Anybody in marketing, is that how you would pitch your story to people? If you're on the other team, you get frogs and lice and gnats and boils. Or come over here, we got better stuff, or we're nicer, or we changed the world. So it's a different understanding of God evolving over time. But these are just God, a justice God, liberating people from slavery to help them understand what free people means. They don't know that yet. Any last questions, thoughts? Ray?
We also get the idea that Moses also freed other slaves, other captives who had other gods fits into this too. And that the God is only convincing other people of his power, her power.
So other people, not just the Hebrews, and that's a very good point. Hebrews are not a narrowly defined thing, like Jews would be or Episcopalians. They're just a whole bunch of different people, and they're all slaves. And if some people are darker skinned and some lighter skinned, or you were originally, you think from over there and you're from over there, when you're all in it together, you become a people through a shared experience. Slavery in this case, and what's about to happen is liberation from slavery to be free people. They're a disparate group, a diverse is what we would say, group of people get united through a series of events. And that becomes their new identity. And so are they all Israelites? They become Israelites, but they may not be. They're just, I know Joe, and he's a good guy. And I know Sally, probably not the Hebrew names they would have had, but that they're part of us now too. And we're all leaving together. Any last thoughts? Thank you all very much. No class next week. Margaret? Time period? Oh. The Pharaoh that Joseph encountered approximately 400 years before, obviously different Pharaoh. There were multiple ones, and then it says at the very beginning of Exodus, all the people that Joseph knew, the Pharaoh that was in charge then, they're all long gone. So all the goodwill that Joseph had built up by helping Pharaoh everybody's forgotten that story. This is just a new king and these people, and everybody's in that situation together. So how long did the 9 or 10 plagues endure? I don't know. Long enough is the short Jewish answer. A few weeks, long enough to get the point.